impact would stem cell research have on someone like you?
In theory, they would go to repair my spinal cord.
Don't give one man, the Army, Navy, Marines, all the ships at sea, everything that goes boom, all the missiles, and don't do that. He'll use them.
I'm here with Congressman Ted Lieu. Ted, thank you so much for coming out and supporting LGBT community here at LA Pride.
Thank you. It's my honor to do so.
You know, you're a busy guy. It seems like there's something called Trump Watch where you're having to watch everything Donald Trump does and protect your constituency, but also you have to do your job here in California. So how are you navigating the time differential between the two jobs?
Well, I believe the most important thing I can do in my job is to show the country that what's happening now is not normal. We cannot normalize what should not be normalized. We need to make sure that we hold the White House to account for all the violations of federal law that we've been seeing, and just to make sure that people resist and that we take our country back in a year and a half.
You grew up, obviously, you were looking at other presidents. What do you think presidential should mean?
The first thing is that the president cannot violate the law. We've got President Trump, who has committed obstruction of justice. We've got the Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who committed perjury. We've got the President's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who made false official statements on his security clearance form. The disrespect for the rule of law in the Trump administration is shocking, and we need to hold them accountable.
You've been a huge advocate for inmates and people who are arrested. The bail is sometimes too extreme for the poor community, and you've advocated for that. Can you talk a little bit about that bill?
Sure. Every day in America, about 450,000 people sit in jails and prisons, not because they've been convicted of anything, but because they can't pay bail. That is not only discriminatory against the poor, it also is something that's dangerous, because whether or not you leave prison or jail should not depend on how much money you have. There's no relationship between money and whether you're a danger or not to America. So my bill says you need to do a risk analysis. And if the person is dangerous, you don't let them go. If they're not, you let them go. Money should be no part of the bail equation.
LA Sheriff's Department 5 years ago paid out $5 million in lawsuit payouts. But last year it paid out $51 million. How are you working for the state of California on prison reform and the revolving door?
With the Sheriff's Department, that is more an issue related to the county and the state. But obviously, if you have less people sitting in jails and prisons because they can't post bail, you're going to have less lawsuits in general. So I'm trying to bring down the population in prisons and jails. One way is through bail reform.
Do you think that Adam Schiff's Crime Prevention Act is going to make California a leader in trying to come up with alternative programs instead of just doing what Jeff Sessions' memo says?
I do. California has been a leader and will continue to be. Mass incarceration has failed as both a state and national policy. We need to rethink it. And I'm on the House Judiciary Committee. We're also looking at criminal justice reform at the federal level in terms of not just bail, but also making sure we don't continue to warehouse people for decades and decades.
Talk to me about working with Republicans. Like, we've got Rand Paul, who is doing the VALVE Act, and he's saying that Jeff Sessions' memo is wrong and that we actually need to not arrest the people for these smaller crimes, but instead do rehabilitation. And also with Chris Christie, how in New Jersey he turned a prison into a home where people who are opiate addicted can actually get rehab. Tell me how you, as a Democratic congressman, would like to and believe you can work with Republicans.
Right. Criminal justice reform is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. It is an American issue. And there are good people on both sides that are working to reform our criminal justice system. There are Republicans that believe it's a huge waste of taxpayer money to lock people up for marijuana use, for example, and for other drug crimes. There are Democrats that believe we need to focus on rehabilitation, and the two sides are working together to try to get criminal justice reform through. Unfortunately, Attorney General Jeff Sessions has a very backwards way of looking at it, and my hope is that he does not prevail and that the American people get criminal justice reform. We can't just keep saying Trump is bad. We always have to say this is what Democrats stand for. And Democrats stand for infrastructure, for creating millions of high-paying jobs, for equality, for health care, for fairness to everyone in America. And if we get that message out, then we'll do well next November.
I found out that California cannot survive on its own if we were going to try to just do our own health care. So what are you guys doing here to try to protect and serve Californians?
So in Congress, we're fighting very hard to stop the repeal of Obamacare and the replacement with something far worse. Locally, people can resist in their own way. California has done great under the Affordable Care Act, and they passed a lot of laws to make sure that it's implemented correctly. So our hope is that Congress does not repeal Obamacare, but that's a fight that I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see.
What is your view on mass incarceration and the revolving door? Do you believe that the prison industrial complex and all of the money that's going into having prisoners do work for private corporations and different things, do you believe that that infringes upon the 13th Amendment?
I think it's inappropriate. I oppose private prisons, and I have to look at that amendment issue a little more. I'm not familiar with it as much.
Because in California, since 1980, we've built 23 prisons and only one university. A lot of people are asking, are we going to have more prisons and universities in several years? So what is your reaction to if we were to have more money that we're spending on prisons and put it into all those programs, including health care and all of the things that Donald Trump's administration is shutting down, all of the social programs?
Right. You would have less crime. If we spent more money on education and less on prisons, you would have less recidivism, less people committing crime, more people with jobs. That's what we need to be doing.
And what do you have to say about Adam Schiff running for re-election? What's your endorsement for him?
Adam Schiff is awesome. I support Adam. He's doing a great job, and I really hope that the nation sees the amazing job he's doing.
Is he presidential?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Ted Lieu. I'm Jordan Roberts.